Some big game companies have insisted that single-player games are lame, but that couldn't be further from the truth. No matter how popular multiplayer or live service games get, there's always a single-player games across all genres this year so far. You let me know which of these is your favorite. Drop a like, and yes, God of War Ragnarok will be out not too far in the future from this video, so we'll just say it's part of the video because we know it's going to be absolutely amazing. At number 10 today, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It was released in March for the Switch, and it's the latest platformer starring everybody's favorite pink balloon. And, as to be expected, it's actually pretty fun. In fact, some even call it the best Kirby platformer ever released, but I'll let you guys be the judge to that claim. You run around the new world rescuing Waddle Dees, taking down boss after boss with your various abilities, and today, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of the best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch and the second best-selling Kirby game behind only Kirby Dream Land. So if you're a fan of lighthearted platforming games and stuff that brings back those classic Nintendo memories, this one is right up your alley. It's worth a playthrough. Before we move on, guys, if you get anything from G2A, use code CHAOS. Get yourself some cash back. The link is at the top of the description. Next up, Sifu. It's a game that more or less came out of nowhere, but has certainly gotten people's attention. Roguelike beat 'em up where you play as a warrior in ancient China trying to avenge the death of his father. Now, like most roguelike games, it's meant to be played over and over and over and over again. You need to learn trial and error-like. However, every time you die, you get access to more powerful attacks at the cost of less health. It creates this interesting give-and-take dynamic to the progression. The combat is stylish, it's unique, compared to other games on the market, it's pretty cool, and the gameplay loop is very addicting. I never really thought a roguelike beat-em-up would work so well, but this one is one of the best examples. It's currently available on the PS4, the PC, and the PS5, but there is a Switch port scheduled to come out in November, which I think is perfect for... I think that's a perfect platform for this game. Thinking of it kind of like The Binding of Isaac, but instead of playing as a little kid in his basement, you're a kung fu master on a revenge mission. That's pretty cool. At number 2, the story's completed relatively quickly, yes. But it's a game that's more about the atmosphere and the continued, the feeling of it, the vibe, just getting to the end of the story. Check it out. If you haven't, it's actually one of the most unique games to come out in the last few years. Speaking of unique, Return to Monkey Island. If you were a gamer in the 90s, you knew about Monkey Island. It was a series of adventure games for the PC that was published and originally created by LucasArts themselves before being taken over by a handful of other companies before ultimately selling with Devolver Digital for the Return. Now, Return to Monkey Island launched in September for the PC and the Switch. It was led by a new team called Terrible Toy Box under the leadership of one of the original Monkey Island developers. We'll call him King Monkey. Now, some noticeable changes were made to the presentation and the gameplay, but Return to Monkey Island is an excellent adventure game that understands what made the original game special without trying to directly replicate it. So even if you've never played one of the old Monkey Island games, Return to Monkey Island serves as a great jumping-in point for new fans while also being a worthy continuation for longtime players, especially if you like 90s games. At number 6, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. Now, this may be kind of cheating, but if you're a PS5 player and you're looking for an absolute goldmine of single-player action, the Legacy of Thieves Collection, it should be in your backlog. Released in early 2022, it includes both Uncharted 4 and the Uncharted Lost Legacy Remaster, and you get to take full advantage of it on the PS5. That means higher frame rates, smoother animations, even more beautiful visuals than before. Now, Naughty Dog is known for pushing PlayStation's hardware to its absolute limit. In the last 2 Uncharted games, no exception. On top of the eye candy, you get treated to intense third-person shooting that many consider it to be the peak of cinematic action in video games. Let's be real. Now, I know cinematic action games aren't everybody's cup of tea, but if they are your cup of tea, you should give the Legacy of Thieves Collection a playthrough. Plus, it's launching on the PC later this year, so a whole new group of players will get to experience it. Now, we arrive at number 5. Pokemon Legends. Now, I know I've mentioned this game a number of times already on the channel, but I think it's better than people give it credit for. It's a Switch-exclusive action RPG. It's kind of a merge of traditional Pokemon and open-world exploration games. In fact, a lot of critics compared the open-world aspects to those of Breath of the Wild, while the actual gameplay and combat loops are obviously pulled from previous Pokemon. Now, there's not as much content or Pokemon available to capture as some other games in the series, I get it, but it's an interesting experiment. I would love to see Game Freak keep trying stuff. Remember how great games like Pokemon Colosseum were? Pokemon games are simultaneously expected to stick to the formula while also evolving in big ways, which, how do you do that? There hasn't been much evolution in the franchise's gameplay in the last decade, so even though Pokemon Legends may not have been your cup of tea, and we say cup of tea over and over, I think it's a step in the right direction. It's interesting. At number 4, The Quarry. Speaking of cups of tea, interactive dramas aren't everybody's cup of tea, but this is cool. It's a campy, goofy, gruesome love letter to 80s and 90s slasher movies and a spiritual successor to the 2015's Until Dawn. You control a group of teenagers at a summer camp trying to survive against a number of horrific enemies, both human and supernatural, as you make choices throughout the story. Relationships can be created or they can fall apart. Characters can live or die based on split-second happenings that you react to in one way or another, which makes the endless replayability factor there. None of the characters are amazing, but that's not what you're here for. You're here for this weird stuff that comes out of classic slasher movies where you're kind of rooting for the bad guy because they're the one creating all the entertainment, but after a couple underwhelming games from Supermassive, this is a fun horror experience. At number 3, Postal Brain Damaged. I know, I never thought I'd say a Postal game gets to make a list like this, but it's actually a fun boomer shooter, and it perfectly fits into the Postal franchise. Postal is known for that so bad it's good. And even by those standards, all the games are pretty bad, except Postal 2. Postal 2 can stay. Now, when Running with Scissors announced they were making a fast-paced retro FPS game around the Postal license, most of us expected a similar kind of so bad it's good design to it, but when the game launched in June on the PC, it's actually good. If you have a half-decent gaming PC and you've been enjoying games like Doom Eternal and Ultra Kill, go download it. I mean, if Postal decides to become a boomer shooter franchise, I support that. At number 2 today, speaking of boomer shooters, Ultra Kill, the main standout of the genre this year. The game initially hit Steam's Early Access program back in 2020, but it got a number of hefty updates this year that have brought on thousands of new players. You play as a robot running through giant groups of demons and using their blood as power in the most extreme and, stylish ways, honestly. The developers wanted to merge the insane gameplay of Doom and Quake with games like Devil May Cry, and you get this ultra stylish and insanely addicting game with some of the most satisfying gameplay in any FPS ever made. So while it may not technically came out this year, it's still not technically finished. Ultra Kill's 2022 updates have been top-notch. You should give it a try. And at number 1 today, no shocker. Like I said, God of War Ragnarok gets a free bonus pass. Elden Ring. Everybody try to act surprised. There's not much to say. From Software has been on a seemingly unstoppable winning streak ever since the first Dark Souls games. I guess there's that weird Steel Battalion game for the Kinect that they kind of put out there, but I think they're forgiven. Elden Ring is basically open-world Dark Souls, and while there is a multiplayer component like most From Software games, it's completely avoidable if you don't want to partake, and the game is excellent. The story is engaging, the world is fascinating, the combat is perfectly refined open-world version of what we've come to expect from a Soulsborne game. Elden Ring is a fantastic fantasy RPG, and it's probably the number 1 must-play of the year right now. Like I said, we've got a couple others coming, but right now, it's got to be at the front for Game of the Year. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you soon.